Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books, 38 of them in audio and paperback, entitled Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. All of them are available at Amazon and Audible, so please go out and have a crack at it. And we're getting ever closer, my friends, to some cool merch on the website. So stay tuned, and I will keep you abreast of when exactly that will launch. And now, may I introduce you to my brother and faithful co-host and trumpeter, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm good. I don't have the trumpet ready, though.
You got to warm up to get those nice clear tones on the royal trumpet.
Exactly. It's a little early today for the trumpet. And preview upon preview, and I know you're making progress on the merch, Bill, but one of my neighbors did tell me, who listens to the podcast faithfully, thank you there, Mr. Ryan. He said, you know, you are previewing this quite a bit. I'd really like to see some of the merch.
Well, listen, really, people have no idea what a time-consuming endeavor all of these things are. It's and mind you, folks, my faithful graphic artist and all-around good girl, Casey Smith, by the way, Sugar Studios, Casey Smith, excellent graphic artist. The amount of time and effort and joining with each other. She lives in Georgia now. I'm on Long Island, so we have like phone meetings and back and forth previewing of things. She's got a family. I'm single. So there's a lot of little roadblocks here and there that we overcome. But she already started loading quite a bit of merch in the place where it will be manufactured, and you will be linked to that place. So I would imagine all of the financial things have been squared away, all of my linking. So we're getting close. It just takes time. So be patient. There's a lot of cool things coming up.
No problem at all.
Cool, man.
And Casey, she doesn't know me, but if she did, she probably would have just texted me and said, please say that I'm a good woman, all-around good woman, not a good girl. So it is hot as Hades here in North Carolina, Bill. I mean, I've never been to Hades, thankfully, but it's hot and it's humid too.
Yeah, it's been an up and down ride so far this summer, right, with these heat waves. We had that heat dome a couple of weeks ago. It was like almost 100 here for like 4 days.
Yeah, it was hotter by you than it was by me.
Woo-wee. And everybody pray for the people in Kerrville and all those areas around Texas. Just watching the news, and they're getting a deluge of rain and a big swath of area down in Texas today. And that's all these poor people needed was another pile of water rushing in,
Yeah, no, it's horrible how many people died. And, I was on the fence about mentioning this. Of course, my brother never knows what I'm going to talk about, and vice versa as well, when we record these podcasts. But, After that tragedy happened and continues to unroll, I started, me, I'm the techie. I started to look into like some of the stuff that went wrong, and there's a lot of things that went wrong. But one is interesting. We rely more and more on our mobile phones more than ever, which I think is okay, in that we get so much more information on the mobile phone. But until you don't get the vital information. And a lot of these folks, that were affected by the flood or killed by the flood, the thoughts are that they never got a warning on their mobile device.
Yeah.
Perhaps because the warning didn't come across. I mean, we've all seen that where we're sitting next to one of our friends or colleagues and their phone goes off with some kind of warning, but yet your phone doesn't go off with the warning. Not necessarily because of a problem with the service provider. It could be your settings, your preferences, etc. And or, of course, if you don't have a signal, which was probably the case along this river in some of these little, hollows and stuff like that. Yeah. So what I did was I went out and I bought this little Midland. It's made by Midland, not a sponsor of this podcast. I don't think they even want to be associated with us, honestly. But it's this little NOAA, NOAA, right? The Ocean Atmospheric Association, the government here. Their little weather warning radio. And I think it was about $30. It's got a rechargeable battery in it that's charging all the time if you plug it in. It's also got, the ability to put some AA batteries in it too as a backup to that. And, it's a AM, FM, and weather radio, and it has a crank on it, etc. But the best thing about it is if you set it for weather alert, this thing goes off with a siren and a flashing light and everything else. And then when you hit the button on the top, kind of like an alarm clock, it cuts right to the weather radio station telling you exactly what's happening.
That's an excellent public service, Kev.
And I bought it, Bill, and I was like, well, let's see if it does anything. And I bought it like a week ago, right after all these floods. I plug it in on my desk on the ground floor of our house here in Raleigh. And I'm outside talking to a neighbor yesterday, and my bride comes out, and she says, Gav, there's some kind of siren going off in your office. Because I didn't know what kind of sound it would make, but it's like an ambulance siren howling and a strobe light flashing on the thing.
Nice, I like that.
I came in, I hit the button, and it said, severe thunderstorm approaching from the south with penny-sized hail, blah, blah, blah. So anyway.
Wow.
Check it out. Midland, I did the research. They're supposed to make the best one for the value. Don't buy it because I said so. Do your own research. But I tried it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, a friend of mine who's in the know in that area of Texas said that in particular, like some of the areas where they have these camps, the cell service is non-existent.
Exactly. I know it's rural Texas, so
yeah,
I get it,
Well, what do we have in our cryptids in the news and other oddities today,
Yes,
brother?
Moving on to the cryptids. By the way, I don't think this radio will alert you if a dog man is looking in your window. It would be handy to have a device like that, but this is not a device. Could you imagine the thing going, and then you hit the button and it's like, there's a very large dog man in the vicinity.
Oh, my God.
There is some black-eyed children on your front porch looking in your Ring camera at you.
Oh, my goodness.
What action would you like to take?
Double barrel?
All right. So cryptid-wise, we are going to the border of North Korea and China.
Wow.
Yeah. Long way away. Near a place called the Baiku Mountains.
Okay.
Or the Changbai Mountain Ranges. And there is a lake there, right on the border. The border, I went to Google Maps and looked at it. The border between China and North Korea actually cuts down roughly the center of this big lake. And the lake is called Heaven Lake, ironically. And it is the home of what's called the Lake Tianchi monster.
Huh.
Yeah. So it is in the middle of nowhere. It looks quite beautiful. It is a crater mountain lake, so formed from like a volcanic crater,
Okay.
right? Big though, and so surrounded by mountains. And when you look at the pictures online of Lake Tianchi, you know what it looks a lot like, Bill?
Lake Ronkonkoma?
Nope. Good guess though. Loch Ness.
Oh. And there's a lot of water depth generally in all those volcanic lakes.
Exactly.
Very deep.
Exactly. And, these sightings go back all the way to 1903, reported sightings. And of course, folks, we're talking about North Korea here and a very remote part of China. So you're not going to get the same type of reports that you would get in other parts of the world, especially other parts of the world that like media and public media. So there's not, even though it's such a rural place, there are a fair number of accounts about this. And the thing looks like some type of sea serpent, very large and similar to what I would say the Loch Ness monster looks like. And there's some videos of this out there. So, in 2007, excuse my Chinese pronunciation, a Chinese TV reporter by the name of Zhao Yongshang said that he shot a 20-minute video of 6 unidentified creatures in the volcanic lake on September 6th, again back in 2007. He sent the photos to Xinhua Jilin Province Provincial Bureau. That's the province of China where this lake is. Again, really the middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
And according to a news report, one of these photos showed 6 what they called Nessies swimming in parallel in 3 pairs.
Wow, that's kind of weird, huh?
Yeah.
3 pairs, 6 creatures.
Yep.
I mean, come on, a volcanic lake. I understand it's big, but even like Loch Ness, it's never really a uber turbulent place,
No.
I mean, we would consider it virtually calm conditions even at its worst. And to sight 3 pairs moving
And
about.
the things that I read about this, Bill, and different sightings and stuff, really, even the experts, the best they come back with is these people are definitely seeing something, but they'll say kind of, it could be some very large fish, which of course it could be, or it could be driftwood floating across. But, and I'm not saying it's not that. But it's a lot like, when somebody says, someone with a lot of experience sees what they think is a Bigfoot, and for all intents and purposes is a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And then someone says, well, no, it was a bear. And the guy's like, well, I'm a forest ranger. I know what a bear looks like,
Yeah, and Kev, listen, man, I get that. The odds of 3 pairs of dead logs joining up in unison and floating together across the lake is like slim and none and slim just left. I mean, to me, it's absurd to think of, 3 sets of drifting logs just meandering across this lake together,
Yeah.
Just
and
doesn't
get
make
this, going back to 1962, on the 21st to 23rd of August in 1962, a person using a telescope from the side of the lake reportedly saw 2 of these monsters chasing each other in the water. And on those days, more than 100 people reported the sightings.
Wow. Now that's a significant sighting. Come on.
Yeah.
It's like that Champ. I
same.
remember the one sighting of Champ where that tourist boat was filled with people. They were probably drinking whatever martinis and beers, and that thing just came up, and everybody saw it and knew what they were looking at. There was no...
Yeah, and that, of course, for our audience is the Champ Monster, what's known as the Champ Monster from Lake Champlain up in New York and Vermont.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, who knows? Certainly a half a dozen creatures would need a significant food supply, or we look at it as that, but I'm sure they could survive on just lake fish. A lake like that has to have tons of fish in it,
Oh, yeah.
Fish multiply quickly for the most part, and vegetation. We don't know anything about exactly what they're eating.
No, and this clearly could be, in a very deep water, isolated lake like this, some species that used to exist and has gone extinct in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I feel this way, like, for instance, about, say, the megalodon. Yes, I know that down in the Southland here in the States, there are areas where they just keep harvesting these megalodon teeth.
Oh, we get them on beaches in North Carolina. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never found one, but people find them all the time.
Yeah, so, I mean...
And definitely when they're scuba diving right off the coast, they find them all the time.
Yeah, so these millions of megalodon teeth, you cannot tell me the depth of the ocean in any type of calamity, a global catastrophe, would have to be, if you were a fish or a marine mammal, would have to be maybe the safest place to be on the planet from getting wiped out. Now, if you happen to have been in more shallow areas when something happened, or get trapped with receding water lines and you just dry up and die, I can't see that every megalodon or anything else got wiped out. I just don't believe it. Now, why we don't see more of them, I don't know. But I remember seeing that swordfish head. Was it a swordfish? Anyways, this guy posted a picture online of what would have been like a 1,500-pound, I want to say it was a swordfish, that had been bitten off clean from the gill plate back. He estimated, I have the picture on my phone, he estimated this fish was probably 15 feet long and like 12 or 1,500 pounds. And it was chomped off cleanly, leaving a 200-pound or so head
Yeah,
left.
I've seen that. That happens a fair amount with marlin, too,
Yeah.
out here. Somebody will get a big black marlin on, and they're fighting it, and they get it close to the boat, and then it's usually a great white comes by and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
marlin.
even if it was a great white, Kev, a bite like that would indicate that basically 12 feet of this fish was in the aggressor or the predator when the bite was taken, because it would be like you taking a toothpick with a shrimp on it, putting it in your mouth and just pulling the stick out.
Oh, yeah, but it probably bites it from the side, and then takes it with it.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's how the great whites are doing it here. And they're here, man. We're tracking one all summer that's like the largest male ever tracked before. And I think it was like 17 feet long. And I think right now it's heading up your way.
Yeah,
So be
they're
careful.
yeah, they're around. I don't fool around, man.
I don't think they're not typically cruising along the shore like Jaws and biting people.
Well, I don't know if you've seen. I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures from up north, coast of Massachusetts and whatnot. I mean, they got drone footage. These things are in the surf, and there's people right in the water.
Yeah.
I mean, close. I'm talking like within, you see 2 or 3 people in like 3 feet of water, and here's this freaking 15-footer snooping around 40 feet away from them.
Yeah, well, definitely up there in New England and maybe a little bit by you too. You
Yes.
got the seal population.
That's right.
And they love seals. I mean, like I spent so much time in the water here. I love the fact that we don't have seals.
Well, the seal population here on Long Island, too, is burgeoning.
Yeah.
So it's been growing and growing and growing. And since, we're not going to start shooting seals, right? I mean, they just let them go.
Yeah.
And the population is increasing. So guess what? All kinds of stuff. We got tons of sharks around Long Island. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So get back to these things. Is that like the end of it here with these creatures up there?
That's the end of it. That's the end of it.
Wow, man.
Another deep cold water lake, isolated, and we have these stories of what's known as the Lake Tianchi monster.
Incredible. Well, I've got 2 Bigfoot accounts here today. One is relatively short, and the other one a little bit longer. But this first one is from the Marble Mountain Wilderness. And our listeners will recall the Christian youth group that had filmed that creature on the ridgeline in Marble Mountain. I don't want to dwell on that now, but excuse me. This sighting was shared with me by a fellow named Lawrence Biondi, a resident of Northern California. And this is what Lawrence had to say to me. Having heard you and your brother mention the Marble Mountain sighting on numerous occasions, I thought it only fitting to finally chime in and share with you and your listeners my sighting, which happened in the same wilderness area only many years earlier. This wilderness covers a vast expanse in the vicinity of Etna in California. It was a gateway location for me when I was married, and living up north, my wife and I shared many a day hiking and relaxing in the park. In 1989, she and I were traversing Cliff Lake via Shackleford Creek Trail, having stopped in a meadow area for a break, sprawling out in the grass and soaking up the sun. It was a pristine day, not a cloud in the sky and not so much as a wisp of wind. Now, this meadow sprawled out in front of us for about 500 yards, backed by a tiered band of tall spruce trees leading up to the mountain's base. At the time, snow was still visible near the peak and just below it. The area is so expansive that, having hiked it dozens of times, I still cannot distinguish where that church group of young people was when they reportedly saw and filmed a Bigfoot. I know many agree and disagree with what they said and filmed, but I'm here to tell you that I am confident about what Mary Jane and I saw that day. She and I lived on the edge, Mary Jane having died from a shark attack while snorkeling in the Hawaiian Islands. So there we sat as a single deer came running out of the trees full tilt into this meadow in the distance. It had run a couple of 100 yards, stopped and turned, looking back at the trees, and continued running across the field and into the woods. Neither of us had ever seen a deer run this fast and for so great a distance in all our days, especially alone. It was very odd. We sat there talking about what we had just seen, our gaze fixed on the entire area where it had happened, looking for any other deer or predators to appear, and we saw nothing. For about 20 minutes we sat, and then the Sasquatch appeared, walking along the wood line in the distance at about 400 yards or so. It was unmistakable. It was not a bear and not a man. It was a Sasquatch. It did not enter the meadow, but had come out of the trees near where the deer had emerged earlier, the two of us believing it was why the deer had fled, no doubt driven away from the herd and perhaps an attack. It followed the edge of the wood line for quite some time before re-entering the trees in a spot where there was a visible break, and it was gone. I thought this would not be quite exciting enough for you, otherwise I would have contacted you sooner, having no pictures and nothing to support my claim other than what I just said. You could tell it was not a human in so many ways. The color, the size, the way it moved, and the distance it had covered in what appeared to be a very leisurely pace. It was large and darkly colored, the entire front side visible to us, unable to differentiate the skin on the face from the rest of the body, being all somewhat darkened to our eyes. My heart was racing as we watched it, excitedly seeing it walk along in the grass. They must stalk and attack the deer population. If not, why would the deer run and keep running for such a great distance? It must have been chasing it and stopped at some point, the deer being too afraid to stop, running for its life. Very interesting, Kev. A brief sighting of first a deer, which got their attention, and then this thing following up, kind of walking along sometime afterwards.
No, and great to go back to Marble Mountain. I mean, by the way, one of the top 10 video accounts of a Bigfoot, not just my opinion, but as stated by Outside Magazine.
Yeah, I think that Marble Mountain was incredible. That was a very strange and unique setting, especially with them running across the den, if you will, made out of those huge branches that were just ripped off. And you could see all of that stuff was fresh.
100%, yeah.
I mean, nobody in that group or collectively had snapped those 6 or 8 inch branches off the trunk of a tree, I'll tell you that. But now, this other account is very interesting. Not that that wasn't interesting. Shared with me by Miles Clemson, North Carolina resident, born and raised in Alabama. This is what Miles had experienced in 1979. In 79, Bill, I was 12 years old trying to act like I was 18. My friend Graham was the same as me. 2 little shots thinking we were big shots, if you know what I mean. We lived in a small community outside of the Eufaula area, which afforded us a lot of leeway growing up, hunting in the woods, riding horses and tractors, and a lot of other cool stuff I'm so grateful to have experienced. So there was an area by us that contained long and well-used hiking trails. And it was also a favorite spot for an easy campout. We could hike into it on foot in 20 minutes from our houses. It was a Friday in July, and the heat was on, 95 and humid during the day. So Graham and I were going to pitch our tent for the weekend. I was never formally a Boy Scout. However, my father had been through each Boy Scout handbook with me. Cub Scouts, Webelos, Boy Scouts, and Eagle during my childhood. In fact, at the time of this event, I was getting into the Eagle Scout teachings. The point is, my dad trusted me to make good judgment calls, and so did Graham. So off we went, toting our canvas tent, some goodies for a couple of days, and if anything happened, we were not far from salvation, if you know what I mean. This event happened on the first night, shortly after we had settled down with a good fire going and toasting up some marshmallows. The spot we pitched was actually a cleared campsite. Even the trees were thinned around the site, so we could see well in the firelight. As I recall it, it was nearly 9 o'clock when we heard the first snort, sounding exactly like a horse in a corral. Graham said, "I guess someone's horse got away," as we scanned the area hoping to see the animal. Well, there was no horse to see. But something else was there to see, and that was a Bigfoot, as my dad calls him, the hairy man. I know that I speak for Graham and myself saying that we did not hear a thing relative to animal sounds, signaling that something was incoming at the time. So, we hear this snort. A few minutes later, we hear a second one and then a third, with the third one sounding very weak, comparatively speaking. I know that I was thinking at the time, after hearing the weakest snort of the grouping, that this horse had to be very close. And yet we saw nothing, as I said. At some point, the two of us stood up with our flashlights and began walking around the back of our tent, entering the fringes of the standing trees, still well illuminated by the fire now. We could see far to varying degrees, well into the trees, and I wondered where this darn horse was. I then heard a snort from above our heads, now positioned in the woods some 75 feet from where we had been sitting, and as I looked up and out, about 20 feet away and up a tree, I see a huge figure clinging to the trunk. I could not believe my eyes, and Graham started sounding like he was gasping for air. This thing was enormous, grasping the tree between its feet, while holding its right arm around the trunk, the left arm stretched outward, the hand leaning on a branch. At least 30% of its body was visible, leaning away from the tree. We had turned our flashlights directly on it, illuminating everything to see relative to how it looked, and it was very close to us. The hair was white and black, kind of streaked, with some visible patches of all white here and there. I realized it had made complete eye contact with me as it started jerking around and now hooting. That is when we ran. I never heard it following, but we would not have stopped anyway, leaving the fire burning and the camp intact, running for our lives clear back to our homes. Graham's house was first or closest as we were running, and he wasted no time running inside, as I continued to my own for about 2 more minutes. Bursting through the door in a frenzy, my parents were nearly scared to death by my entry, asking what was happening. No sooner had I calmed down, caught my breath, and begun, the phone rang. Mom answered immediately, saying, "Sure, David, he's right here," passing the phone to my dad. David was Mr. Crawford, Graham's father. So Dad is now talking to him, and as I was trying to explain to my mom, I heard my father say to Mr. Crawford, "So it's back." I knew what he was speaking about, and I could not believe what I heard. Dad and Mr. Crawford knew something about this monster we had encountered. Mr. Crawford now had some physical problems, and I listened to my dad say that he would go back up there in the morning, asking if Chris would come along with him. Now, Chris was Graham's older brother, and he was a big man. When my dad hung up, I began to fill him in on the details, also telling him that we left the fire burning. He said, "Let's hope the woods do not burn down during the night," and that was that. He wanted no part of going back in there at night, that's for damn sure. In the morning when Chris arrived, he was toting his Winchester, and my dad had put 6 slugs in his Remington, dumping the other 19 in his jacket pocket, 25 in all. I had never seen him do such a thing. I asked him if I could go, and he said, "You must. Otherwise, we may not find your camp." So I grabbed my .22 caliber rifle, and off we went. I'll tell you, I was terrified as we entered the trail, but I was trying to carry myself like a man, not letting on just how afraid I was. It was a slow and methodical stroll, Dad and Chris covering every aspect of the woods and listening to every sound. I'll tell you, Bill, I was never so afraid in all my life and will never be able to forget it. When we reached the campsite, we had slowed to a crawl, literally inching our way into the area like commandos seeking out the enemy. The fire had burned out overnight, but you could smell the coal. The tent was intact, however, our backpacks were flung around the camp. The food packages torn apart, and even our sodas had been drunk. I pointed out the tree we had seen it perched in as we slowly walked over and beneath it, Chris scrutinizing the trunk, while my dad kept his eyes in the woods. We then gathered all the damaged gear, broke down the tent, and began to hike out, which for whatever reason was a bit more intense than coming in. Speaking for myself, I felt as though we were watched the entire time, and the forest flanking us on both sides certainly would have provided ample cover for this thing or anything else. When we got back, we all stopped at the Crawfords for what amounted to be a daytime rehashing of the events as they had come down. Graham was there and glad to see me. His father had forbidden him to come with us during the morning, which I certainly understood, my dad being a bit more lenient. And that's when I learned about the past. Hearing about this monster or another one like it being around these parts when I was a toddler. There had been apparently some losses of animals. Some locals had taken pot shots at the creature during a period that amounted to be 3 years before it seemed to have left or died in the woods having been shot. No one knowing one way or the other, but the activity had stopped. After our encounter, nothing more happened regarding this hairy man. But I will tell you this much. I will not camp anywhere to this very day, and my head is continually on a swivel thinking anything can and may happen at any time and anywhere. It's like PTSD. Your life will never be the same once you've experienced such a thing. I have not spoken to Graham for over 25 years, having moved on a long time ago. Left constantly wondering, what exactly is he thinking these days about what we had experienced together such a long time ago?
Wow.
There you have it, Kev.
Where was that account at, Bill?
Outside of Eufaula, Alabama.
Yeah, so another little town that I've actually been to, believe it or not.
Yep.
One of my first jobs, you remember, Bill, I worked for this electronics company, and one of my customers used to be a place called Texonic Industries that made hummingbird fish finders, and they were headquartered in Lake Eufaula, Alabama.
Yeah, Kev, I remember doing some business with Texonic in Eufaula.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, when you were in the component side of things.
That's right. Texonic. Yeah. And they were a manufacturer of hummingbird.
Yep.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah, pretty cool. And a very rural place, I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I just enter into these things. I don't need to see photographs and this and that. Anybody knows in a lot of these places down there, like he said, they grew up riding tractors around and horses and stuff. It's a different life. I mean, even, Eddie and Susan, Kev, right? Susan grew up in rural Arkansas. The neighbors were far away. I mean, they were jumping off the roof of the barn into hay piles and, riding horses around, shooting guns, girls shooting rifles, shooting crows. I mean, people can't relate to that stuff like where I live here, And that's why
we didn't grow up riding horses and hay.
We were zipping around on motorcycles and beat up mini bikes.
Yeah, we were riding around in the woods and stuff.
Yeah. And isn't it funny back then, Kev? Basically we grew up with a tremendous amount of woods around us or near to us.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know I never saw a deer, ever? And I used to go in the woods all the time. I never saw one deer until probably I was in my, I don't even know, maybe my late 20s, going down Sunrise Highway out east. And now these freaking deer are all over the place.
Yeah.
So, very bizarre, but...
yeah, I saw them back then, but I didn't see them like in the woods behind our house, where they must have had, of course, stating the obvious, there was a lot more woodland around back then.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to come as close to civilization. Whereas today, boy, in my neighborhoods down here in North Carolina, every night they're like walking down the street because there's just no more woods for them locally.
Yeah.
Or not enough woods locally.
Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon.
And I mean, still, I live in a place that's really rural compared to you. And the deer are all over the place.
Yeah, they've grown accustomed to being around the houses because I'm sure if they just wanted to, I don't even know mentally what they're capable of thinking, but if they wanted to, they could hike out and go to a more rural area where it was just trees, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't think they have that
Sedentary.
organization. All right, rally up. You, Donner, with the GPS. Lead us to the new promised land.
Remember the coach on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? He had the
Exactly.
cap on and the
Hey.
whistle.
Yeah.
Rudolph! So, Kev, what do we have in our listener mail today?
We got some really good listener mail, and this one I'm definitely going to cover. Is one of the best listener mails ever. So, and I don't mean, it's a different kind of listener mail. We always have some great ones and some very touching stories and things like that. So I don't mean to compare it to that, but in terms of analyzing something that I talk about frequently, this is fantastic. So it comes from John in Sussex, England. And he says, "Hello again, Bill." Okay, come on, John. I'm here too. But I'll get over that. I told you it's one of the best emails. He says, "I've attached a video because Kevin identifies himself as a science-minded and being somewhat skeptical. The video is a brief look at some claims made on what I think Kevin identified as his favorite TV show, which is Skinwalker Ranch. Keep in mind the fact that these shows exist to make money. Producers of these shows make their money by selling advertising time. The more viewers a show attracts, the more money is made. It is the advertiser who is the customer. The viewer is the product. I'd be interested in Kevin's thoughts on this." And I don't know, Bill, did you watch this video?
I did not.
Oh, you gotta watch this YouTube video.
Okay.
So, folks, this is a critic, or a very well-educated critic of. I wouldn't even say critic. They're an observer of the details in a television show, which John points out clearly KJ is not. But what I mean is, they go in and they look at. Now, one of the things they look at is how the boys on Skinwalker Ranch are analyzing a photograph of some object going by a platform that they have suspended, a camera on a platform that they have suspended below a balloon on Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes, I was watching that episode.
Yeah, and they talk about how fast it's moving, and they make a lot of conclusions about it. Now, this reporter looks at it and says, "Well, I don't really see it that way. I think it's really doing about 3 miles an hour, and here's the science behind how I made the conclusion." So I was like, well, that's pretty darn interesting, but I was like, that's it's one of these, instances of photographic or videographic evidence that can be interpreted a lot of different ways, right? So I'm like, okay, I get it, but you could probably bring 3 more experts and they would see it 3 more different ways. But I still love the questioning of it. But then I go on to watch the rest of this video, and they're showing that, our boy, right? Shoot another rocket up there, who I love.
Travis
they have,
Taylor.
what do they call it? The tricore meter that they bring out?
Yes.
I may be confusing that with the thing they use on Star Trek, so I apologize. But they have tape on it to cover the brand of it, I guess, right? Because they're not a paid advertiser. But this guy zooms in on it, and sometimes when they say they're looking for radiation, for example, Travis will be like, "There's no place on Earth without any radiation, and this thing says 0.0." But this guy zooms in on it, and he's actually measuring like electricity. Like that's what the dial's set to, not radiation.
Okay.
So either they're, making full. Well, there's 3 scenarios that I see, but there's probably more I want to talk about. One is they don't realize what the meter's set on, and it's an honest mistake. 2 is they're trying to trick us, so they know what the meter's set on. Mm-hmm. And then 3, which, John, I'm interested, right back again, could this be editing problems too? Right? Like they're editing the wrong shot of the meter in there and nobody catches it.
Right. There's a lot we don't know.
But getting back to the beginning of your email, John, of course, I am in firm agreement, and I like you pointing it out and reinforcing it again, that these shows are there to make money. And they make money by hooking us in and keeping us to come back. That's why they have the cliffhanger at the end of every episode of these shows, not just Skinwalker Ranch. And, they want the show to go on for a long time because every season is millions and millions of dollars. So I get that, but it is worth you pointing that out again.
Yeah, Kevin, you
and the audience.
My stance on this show, Expedition Bigfoot. I think there's a percentage of dramatization, and if you don't believe that, then you got your head in the sand. And I believe there's another heavy percentage of real activity.
Yeah.
So I know there's showmanship involved in both of these shows, but it doesn't tear me away from the fact of the matter was, or is, that in a place like Skinwalker, there's been activity there for a long, long time, and we cannot discount that Bigelow and the U.S. government had set up shop there for a long time. And they weren't whistling Dixie over there. They didn't come to look at the dirt.
Right.
They were investigating, and that's what they were doing there,
Yeah.
So you could take it what you will. Great hearing from John in Sussex. And by the way, folks, if you're new to this show, in the beginning, we do our cryptids in the news and other oddities, which can be about anything strange and unusual, including a Bigfoot. Then I usually jump into a Bigfoot Dogman account, whatever I have, and then we end the show with listener mail. And if you'd like to chime in with us, or if you've seen something, say something, even if it's just hello. BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Hit the contact link button and let us know, like John did, what your thoughts, ideas, or sightings, or whatever may be. And, I guess that's it, Kev, huh?
That's it for this week, Bill.
Well, remember, folks, if you should be stomping around Eufaula, Alabama, or Marble Mountain Wilderness, Northern California, you best remember one thing, my friends. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.